Alright everybody, welcome back to another deck breakdown video here with Chris from CTJ the Saiyan Elites. And today we're going to be going over Vegeks, the new black leader who's going to probably take over the meta, in my opinion. Now obviously this is coming out after the structure decks have already come out, but I think it's still okay because we haven't really had too much time to play with them. It's been about a week, and not even a week yet actually, and this is going to give some people hopefully some new ideas. Some ideas that, I mean, obviously everything's kind of new right now, but this will give everybody sort of a kind of a backbone to go off of with this leader. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of this breakdown video, and let me know if there's any older leaders you would like to see me make a breakdown video of, just to kind of give you guys some idea of maybe how to play the older leaders. So with this leader, we'll start off with kind of this leader's abilities. So on the both sides, you can only play mono black battle cards. Now there's a lot of people who are running the Goku apes, the $100 and something draw apes, because you're not playing them, you're putting them in the drop area and then you're using them. So you can do that. And since you burst, you can basically put them in the drop area anyways. Very cool card. Truthfully, not a big fan, mainly because they're so expensive. Once regionals comes around, then I'm able to go to regionals and get those cards. Definitely will be playing it because it really works, but as of right now you don't really need it. But the active main on the front side is you burst 5 and you draw 1, and then if you have 4 life or less or 20 cards in your drop area, you can draw 1 and untap 1, and then you draw cards in your life down to 6. Now what's really cool is that we have a way of trying to get a turn 3 awakening with this leader, which we'll talk about a little bit. So what this leader does on the awakened side is you can do the same sort of effect where you draw 1 card, and then so before you burst 5 and you draw, and now you draw and then you burst 5. So you basically burst 5 and then you give your black unison double strike, which is really strong considering the unison we carry in this deck has dual attack, or can get dual attack, so it becomes a dual attack double strike, which is extremely strong for game ending. But it also has a second permanent where at sparking 20, if you were to run out of cards in your deck, you are basically able to shuffle your drop area back into your deck. Extremely strong ability, makes this leader very fast pace, and you just want to burst and burst and burst and burst and burst. And if you're doing it correctly, you can go through your deck probably twice in a game. Also, you can't lose to being milled out, so coolers and Janempa, stuff like that, they actually really can't touch this deck. So just some basic building tips for this deck. Obviously, we want to have cards that have drop area mechanics. Also having a possible turn 2, turn 3 awaken. Turn 2 is really difficult. I don't see a way to consistently do it right now. Maybe in the future, but right now it's still kind of eh. So also this deck counters mill really heavy, and some possible Black Storm board control in this deck as well. Also a little bit of overwhelm play is not too bad, but we want to keep the overwhelm cards to a minimum. So with this little graphic here, this goes over the bursting idea that I have for this deck. So turn 1, and this is I kind of did this as if I was going first. So turn 1, you burst 5 with your leader and you draw 1, so you have 5 cards in your drop area. Turn 2, first thing you do is you'll charge. Second thing is you'll play Trunks Elite Descendant from your hand. So this is a 1 energy overwhelm 3. So you're basically going to overwhelm the 5 cards you had in your drop area. So cool, we lose the 5 cards. We'll get them back, don't worry. We will then play out Vegeta Return from Darkness with the Trunks effect, which we get to pick a 19k power Vegeta from our deck and play it. And this one, or a Vegeta Xeno, make sure we say that. So you can play this card here, Vegeta Return from Darkness. So it's a 19k crit. When we play this card, we get the burst 5. So we just got our 5 back. Awesome. We got two battle cards on board. From here, we can then use our leader ability to burst. Great. So now we can burst 5 and draw another card. And then we can swing with Trunks. And then we can use Majin Buu's Human Extinction attack, which allows you to burst up to 4 cards. And then if you count the card that's being played in the drop area, it's 5. So it's a burst 5. So here we lost our 5, then we gained 5, now we're at 10, and now we're at 15. And then turn 3, you can just burst 5 and then awaken. Now obviously if you draw 2 of these, turn 1, is it effective? Sure. You can have burst, you can burst 5 turn 1, Turn 2, you can swing with lead, use human extinction attack, but now you need to have a battle card on board. So unless you have an overwhelm card in your deck that doesn't need to be played, or you play out one of the starter deck cards, you can use another human extinction attack, and now you're at 20, which would allow you to have a turn 2 awaken, but it's really difficult and very inconsistent. But turn 3 is pretty solid in this deck. So this is kind of an idea of how to get that turn 3 awaken. So now we're going to go into the decks, and I came up with 2 different ideas for a kind of a mid-range deck, as well as a really expensive tournament deck. And you guys give me your guys' opinions on what you guys think of these 2 different deck ideas. All right, guys. So this is my Vegeks engine deck, and this kind of revolves around using I'm assuming the way that Bandai probably wanted it to be used, which is with the Vegeks cards. Now those don't come in the structure deck, very strange, but you can get them obviously in set 10. So this is kind of how the deck kind of portrays a little bit. So we have 4 of the Trunks Elite Descendant. This is to pull out either this Vegeta, which is I believe what the deck was intended to do, and then also the Burst 5 Vegeta as well. Now this one here is really cool. When you play it out, you can choose this card and a 3-drop card battle card in your a 3-drop or less battle card in your battle area. Send them both to the warp and then draw 1. So what this card does is basically an untap 1. You play this, or a tap 1. Play this card out, and then swing with Trunks, and then use this ability to warp both of these, and you draw 1. And the idea of this is because the 6-drop Vegeks, you can Union Patora for 3 energy from the warp, which is extremely good. Makes Union Patora way better than how Union Patora used to be. But so with this card, when this card hits the field, you have to play 4 or less from your. We basically get to add a 4 or less from your warp back to your hand. So you can just add this card again, which is kind of the idea of the deck, is to just recycle this Trunks, so then you can keep playing out these Vegetas. Now, from the 6-drop, we can go into the 7-drop Vegeks, which has double strike as well as the 6-drop does. But this one can just evolve for free. So basically, if we go into this drop here, we are just going to automatically go into the 7-drop. Now we have a 30k double strike 7-drop on board. When we swing, we get to warp one of our opponent's battle cards. Pretty strong. This is kind of the main game ender in the deck, but we'll kind of go over the middle of the deck as well. So we have 2 Kraken Space Time, which this is for our leader. We can give our leader 15k in double strike if we want to push for game, as well as Dark Black Mass Saiyan, which is a kind of a self-awakening card. We also can play it to stop our opponents from playing using non-keyword skills to play battle cards. For some utility, we have 2 Koitsukis, the expensive robot, where basically opponent plays a battle card 20k or less on your turn, they have to warp 2 cards from their hand, so it kind of stops Topo and Kakuntas and things like that. 3 human extinction attacks. We would always probably run a 4th in the sideboard, just in case you're not really seeing it. And 3 Son Goku making an entrance for our negates. As you see, we do not run a lot of negates in this deck. Now, this card you can probably take out. Gravy and Demigrel's Thrall. 4 Power Burst if you really want to add Power Burst. But I really didn't feel it was necessary just for this idea. But like I said, you can always just add Power Burst right here. Supreme Kai of Time. This one, you get to play it out from the drop area if you, basically get to burst it. So you burst this card, you get to play it out, and this card does not have unique like the other 2 cards that came in the starter deck. So this kind of allows you just play out all 4 of them if you want to. And when you combo with this card, if you have 5 or less cards in your hand, when you combo this card from anywhere, you gain an extra 5k. So this is a 10k combo that your opponent has to respect, because this card can end up being a very, very good game ender alongside of Kraken Space Time. 4 Trunks negates, 4 Trunks super combos, because we want to run a good amount of Saiyans in this deck, as well as the 5-drop Son Goku, which evolves on top of the 1-drop. And this card allows us, it's a 25k double strike that allows us to pull 4 black battle cards from our warp into our drops. We can shuffle them back into our deck. And then we have the Super Saiyan Gotenks Fusion, which is the Unison card for this deck. Very strong card, same kind of idea as the Supreme Kai of Time. If we burst this, we have to play it out for free and add a marker to it. Its +2 is take 1 card in your hand, discard it, and gain 10k power. And the -4 is this card gets 20k in dual attack. So this card becomes a 25k dual attack, and with our leader, it becomes a 25k dual attack double strike. Very, very good, strong for game ender. Now we have another card in the deck, little cheeky tech, the Black Mass Saiyan, the Devastator, which is another, it's a 19k, but this is not considered a Vegeta, so we can't really play it out using the Trunks card, which would be amazing if you could. But it is a 3k. It's a 3-drop crit 19k, and if your leader is black and there are 15 or more Saiyan cards between you and your opponent's drop area, when this card's attack is negated or fails to deal damage to your opponent's leader, your opponent chooses one card in their life and sends it to the warp. So it is going to deal damage regardless. If someone negates it and kills it, guess what? They still get delta damage. So this card is going to deal a damage regardless, unless it dies before it can attack. That's the only time that's not going to deal damage. So, but as long as you swing at the leader, you're able to target the leader, this card's going to deal damage. Now, this deck runs around $124. It's like I said, it's kind of a mid-range deck here, price-wise. This is kind of a good starter idea for Vegeks players who are just trying to get into maybe the black archetype. They don't really know what they should be buying. These are just some good cards you can run. Obviously, this is not the only Vegeks deck that you guys can run, but it's a strong idea for somebody kind of getting started off and they want something to base their deck off of. Now, this deck here is sort of my high performance tournament deck that it's really high performance because it's a little more expensive. So same sort of idea as the other one. We run the Trunks, the Kraken Space Time, 3 Quitsukis instead of 2 now, 3 Human Extinction Attacks, 4 Power Burst, 4 Son Goku making an entrance, and 4 Supreme Kais. Also, the Gravy Demigirl's Thrall, as well as the Black Mass Saiyan are still in this deck, and the Return from Darkness Vegeta. And then, of course, the 5-drop Goku and the Gotenks. Now, for the meat, kind of the meat of the deck, we run Vegeta Time Regulator. This could easily be replaced for something else. But the idea of this card is when you play this, if you use a card playing using Overwhelm, you get to choose 2 black cards in your warp, 7 or less, put them back into the bottom of your deck, and then you draw 1. Now, the only card we really run that has Overwhelm is this Trunks and this Trunks here. But the big thing is that it's there. This card, like I said, this is probably the same thing as Gravy's and Demigirl's Thrall from last deck. This is sort of the card that could be switched out, in my opinion, for just a plethora of other things. We do run some of the Universe 3 engine. We run the 3-drop Nagrishi and the 5-drop Anilaza. Now, the reason why we don't run the 4-drop Vieira, because I know you guys are seeing a 4-drop here, this card does not work with Vieira because of its permanent. There's a huge thing on Reddit, people were talking about it, but I'm pretty sure the ruling is going to come out that this card cannot be used because this card is going to be sent to the warp anyways. It somehow doesn't have synergy. It basically, they made it this way so that you can't get out Vieira. That's the whole idea of why this card has a permanent that says this. That's really the only reason. But this card can be played out from your drop, same thing as the Supreme Kai. If you burst it, you can play it out for free. Very, very strong. It comes out in active mode, and you can tap 2, and you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards 3 or less and send it to the warp. It's really, really strong for later on in the game because it's also an activate battle. So if you have 2 energy open and your opponent swings with a 1-drop or just some small battle card, you can just warp it, and now they can't do anything with it. The Nagrishi and the Anilaza come out from the drop area when you warp a black battle card with the same energy cost as them. So for Nagrishi, we have targets of Trunks, the Super Saiyan 3 Trunks, and the 3-drop Vegeta. And like I said, this card can be switched out for another 3-drop if you really want to play another 3-drop. And then Anilaza has this target here, which is Hachiak Hatred Everlasting, aka the 2020 Turles. This is going to be the new Turles card. Obviously, this card came out at the same time as Turles, roughly around the same time. This card saw a little bit of play, saw a huge price increase whenever the Boo deck came out. This card was like $6. That's where I bought mine from, and then they jumped up to like $40. Now they're sitting around that $20 mark. Mainly because Trunks Turles is going to be never played again since it's banned, and we need a card that can shuffle stuff back into our deck. So this card is really cool. When you burst it from your hand, you get to burst 2 cards. Or when this card just is in the battle in the drop area, you can activate its main for 3. Shuffle three black battle cards with between 3 and 7 back into your deck. You play this card out from the drop area. So every time this card gets to the drop area, every turn you can just tap 3, play this card out. Obviously, it's getting rid of your drop area. It's shuffling things back into your deck, which is fine. Every card in this deck, except for our secret rare, we plug almost everything except for all the 1-drops and Demigirl. Everything else can be shuffled back into the deck, so we just continue to put our engine back into the deck. And also when it swings, if you swing in a battle card, you get to restand it. So you actually can swing in a battle card, do some, some board clearing, then swing it lead or do some more board clearing, and then warp it to play out this bad boy, the 25k double strike barrier Anilaza. And when this card comes out, it's going to probably stick on the field unless they have to use some, extensive amount of energy to kill off a barrier 25k. Awesome card. And if that's not enough, we have the Beyond Darkness Demigirl. Considering our drop area is just going to keep getting shuffled back in anyways, at some point you should be able to play this card out. Now you have to be careful. You have to be careful because if you have 35 cards in your drop area, this probably isn't the best card to play out. Some people would say Smoke Dragon is probably a better choice in this deck, and I would agree sometimes. But I really, really like Demigirl. So I think you can fit this spot into Smoke or this card. I think either one of them works. This card you just have to be careful because you don't want to warp your entire drop area away to lose the sparking ability to then possibly lose the game. You kind of just have to be careful. But that's truthfully where cards like Hatchiyak come in, because Hatchiyak is able to shuffle cards back into your drop and back into your deck. So once you awaken, you don't really need to, like, let's say you go through your first cycle of your deck and then you shuffle everything back in, you have Demigirl in your hand. So now you just burst 5, do something else, put cards in the drop area, and then just warp that 7 and play out Demigirl. So there's definitely some ways to do it. It makes the deck a little more elongated, but I think it still really works. But like I said, this can be switched out for Smoke Dragon if you don't want to risk, playing an Overwhelm card in this deck. This deck runs about $454, a little more on the expensive side. But like I said, a lot of this has to do with Vegeta Time Regular, which is getting reprinted. So that is a nice thing. Demigirl is only $47. The Kortsukis are really expensive. It's just one of those draft box cards you gotta kind of just have to buy. And then Hatchiyak is a promo. Gonna be pretty expensive. The Trunks card here, I would recommend not buying. I had a full playset of Trunks and a full playset of the 4-drop Gohan, which could be put into this deck. I sold them because they were like $100 a piece. I can use that to buy better cards, and that Gohan really isn't the best in my opinion, but I'm sure some people will have a different opinion about that. And the Anilazas being at $70 for 4 of them. And again, it's another draft box 5 card. It's going to be expensive. So let me know what you guys think of these 2 deck ideas. Like I said, these are just ideas. These are not, these aren't, I've tested them a little bit just to kind of, I've done some test hands. I've played a little bit of untap. These are not, undefeated decks by any means, but these are just sort of ideas to give you guys maybe some things you guys weren't possibly thinking about when building these decks. Like, that's the point of these videos, is to just kind of help inspire to make better decks. So if you guys come up with a better idea, please share it with me. I want to see what you guys are talking about, because it may help me build a deck that I haven't been able to use yet. So let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell for all the notifications, and I will see you guys in the next video.